Hello and welcome to the Recovery Matters podcast from CCAR, the podcast where putting recovery first is always the goal. Here we present interviews, discussions, stories, and speeches to cultivate the understanding and acceptance of the power, hope, and healing of recovery from alcohol and other addictions. Here are your hosts, Phil and Sandy Valentine.
Sandy, I like to poke around on the internet, and I was looking up the prices of pie. So in Jamaica, a piece
like
of
edible pie?
Yeah, a piece of banana cream pie is $2.50.
In Jamaica?
Yeah, right. And then I went to the Bahamas, and it was $3 for the same piece of pie.
Mm-hmm.
They were the pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, no.
Oh, no?
Who is affirming you? There has to be somebody affirming you because the dad jokes have been going on for
I'm trying,
months.
Ever since it's Amy's fault. Because Amy got me a T-shirt that said, "Bad Dad Joke Champ." So that was pretty bad, right? That joke?
Yeah, that was very bad.
I know, so.
I actually thought you were talking about pie because we bought your dad last weekend.
Yeah, that was a good pie.
A banana cream pie.
He enjoyed it too.
Of which
so did I.
Had none.
Yeah, congratulations. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been 4 months of no sugar.
Really?
No flour. No white flour.
No white flour?
No rice.
No sugar?
No potatoes.
How do you feel?
I feel really good.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful smile today.
Oh, that's sweet.
And I do like your nose piercing.
Oh, gosh. I just wanted to be cool. I wanted to shock the kids because they didn't think that I would actually do it.
You know, if you're on the beach, that could be a Sandy Pearson.
So my maiden name, Maysha, is Pearson. So that's where he's going
All right.
with that. But I think it's time to talk to our guest.
Okay, I do. Hi, Maysha. She's probably nervous enough. I'm sure I'm not helping at all.
No, I think it helps a little bit. I think you're trying to break the ice. Is that?
Oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Is that what you're going for?
I think it's obvious I don't know what I'm doing.
He's not doing it purposefully. This is just the thoughts that randomly float around the top of his head.
And they come out a lot of times. They just, especially if I'm a little tired, I lose my filter, so things just come out. Yeah,
I get it.
I was speaking at Trey Laird's place last night at the Lighthouse, so I was out a little late.
I was jealous that I couldn't go with you.
Oh yeah, it was nice.
It's a very gorgeous recovery house.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a recovery mansion.
Ooh.
With a private chef and a swimming pool.
Oh,
yeah, we had salmon and like beef tenderloin.
He did bring me home one of the centerpieces.
Yeah.
Fresh flowers.
Well, they insisted that I bring it home to you.
I should have known that. Because when's the last time you brought me flowers?
Yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. Okay.
Before that.
Yeah. Oh, well, I live in the present.
Okay.
Maysha, you want to talk a little bit about you? Introduce yourself to everybody.
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Maysha Zakrevsky. I am a person in long-term recovery.
Zakrevsky with two eyes.
Yes, 2 eyes. People like to self-correct that, but no, it's Zakrevsky with 2 eyes. It's my married name. I was actually born Maysha Artis. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I am the learning experience team manager with CCAR's training department. I've been with CCAR since January of 2021, so this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And what did you do before you came to CCAR?
What did I do before I came to CCAR? So, funny story is before I came to CCAR, I was a job quitter because I was a job
quitter.
Yes, because I was still active in my addiction, and I said life is too short. Life is too short to do something that you hate. So I decided in all of my infinite wisdom that I was going to get a job drinking professionally. And I was like, okay, I can be a bartender, I can be a sommelier. And I actually got a job where I could drink on the job. I was a food tour guide in New Haven, Connecticut. And I just drank. The customers would drink, and I would drink along with them. I would start drinking before they started drinking. I would drink long after they finished drinking, and that's kind of what I did before I came into recovery.
That's very clever of you.
And that's quite a launch in your career transition to working for a recovery community organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, my first career was actually a teacher. I taught elementary school in the Bronx, so I taught 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then I met my husband, and I moved to Connecticut. And I was still commuting to the Bronx for a while, and I decided that commute was not manageable, not sustainable.
Yeah.
No.
And it really did not help in terms of my drinking either.
Mm-hmm.
So I quit that job and kind of went on a mission to find myself while I was still drinking, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So tell us about, my question, right, Sandy?
Yeah. Little Maysha.
Your earliest memory and where you grew up and where you were born.
And I always like to know if you have siblings and what that looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So, Maysha, little Maysha. Little Maysha was born Maysha Aisha Artis. Yes. My first name and my middle name both end in the same 3 letters, which is interesting. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, to a teenage mom, and my father was just a few years older than she was. My mother wasn't really around a lot, so she was working. My father, they weren't together. So from as early as I can remember, they weren't together. We lived in an apartment in the projects of Brooklyn with my grandmother. And so my grandmother was basically the one that raised me. Like, I would call her Ma for as long as I could remember. Like, she was and still is my person. I get it now, right? Like, looking back on it, like, my mother was 18. Like, I'm 37, and I still, like, have issues with responsibility. So, so I can get it now. But she wasn't around, and my father, he was starting a new family. So he got married. He had a daughter, and I felt like his focus was on that. So little Maysha was very lonely growing up. I remember Christmases where I would get certain things that I wanted in terms of toys. They tried their best, but there was really no one to do anything with. My mother wasn't around. My grandmother, she tried her best, but I was lonely, and I was looking for attention wherever I can find it. I remember being really young and learning how to spell the word excellent. And anyone that would listen, I would like, I know how to spell excellent. And I would just like rattle off how to spell excellent. I started to read fairly early because my grandmother was working as a teacher at the time, and she would read to me, make sure that I would read, and so I would assume that it's pretty young. I started to look for attention pretty early on for as long as I can remember. So maybe 4 or 5, since I could form memories. I remember asking people like in various ways to pay attention to me.
Were you just with your mom and grandma, or were there other aunts and uncles in the house?
It was a 3-bedroom apartment, and it was my mother and it was my grandmother. I slept in the same bed as my grandmother for as long as I can remember. And then at some point, my mother got married, and she left the apartment. And she left me with my grandmother, which I didn't understand because she's my mother. So why is she living on the other side of Brooklyn and I'm living with my grandmother, who I love, but I wanted the attention of, my mother.
And how did you answer that today? Why did she move without you?
Why did she move?
Yeah.
Do I have the answer to that today?
Yeah.
That is a really good question. I will ask her. I completely forgot about that.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
Do you think the husband didn't want you? Didn't want the kid?
no.
No.
No, I don't think that was the case. I mean, I felt like maybe she wanted some, this is just me guessing, but I felt like maybe she wanted some privacy.
Gotcha.
She was still young, right? So I think this was she would have been about 23 at the time when she moved out. So she was still super young, newlywed. So that was it. That didn't last long. She moved out for maybe like 1 or 2 years, and she ended up moving back to the apartment. But then she moved to Virginia and left me with my grandmother. And she said that, she would call for me once she had everything prepared down in Virginia. And coincidentally, at the same time, my father moved to Virginia, like with his family, to just like 30 minutes away from where my mother moved. And so around 9 years old, I moved down to Virginia.
To live with your mom?
To live with my mother.
What was school like for you in Brooklyn?
Terrible. I guess I was still asking for attention, so I would get in trouble for talking a lot. Like, I don't remember actually learning anything in school when I was in Brooklyn.
Just getting in trouble.
Just getting in trouble, having my mother come in and like talk to the teachers. I remember that. I didn't feel like any of the teachers liked me because they would always call my mother. And then when I moved to Virginia, I lived in Yorktown when I first moved there. When I moved to Virginia, I remember them learning multiplication and division, and I was like, I don't even know how to tell time. Like, what's going on here? How am I ever going to catch up to what they're doing? And even though I knew how to read, right? I told you I learned how to read at a young age through my grandmother. I just had like terrible anxiety even at that age. So we would go around in a circle and everyone would read. And I remember, this is like bringing up so many like random memories. I remember faking a nosebleed so I could go to the bathroom to get out of reading.
So how do you fake a nosebleed?
You don't. You don't
like
because
sure you do. You just put a tissue up to your nose.
No, I thought you had like the fake blood packet or something
my
in your
gosh.
nose.
I think I said something like, I think I have a nosebleed. And then so the teacher stopped everything. Everyone had to go to the bathroom, not just me. And then what made it worse is she asked me to see the tissue after I was done, and there was no blood on there. So I got detention.
It sounds like you've done that before.
No, but I can imagine.
You can.
Imagine. But that's a lot. A 9-year-old relocating to a completely different culture down south, living with your mom for the first time as your authority figure in your life, going to a whole new set of school and figuring out that you're behind. That's a lot. I'm
behind. My name is Maysha. I have freckles, and I also have a New York accent. Like coffee, dog, like whatever. Like I had a New York accent.
I wish you still did.
So yeah, I wish I did too. But so everyone, a lot of the kids can be cruel. So kids made fun of the way that I spoke. They made fun of my freckles. They made fun of
what was the thing with the name?
Just
an unusual name.
Whose name is Maysha? Yeah, just an unusual name.
Yeah.
So I just thought, at that age, I'm like, life would be so much easier if my name was Nicole. And
if it was Nicole.
Out of all the names, Nicole.
Yeah, the name already picked out.
I did have the name picked out. I wanted my name to be Nicole. And I worked hard on getting rid of my New York accent. I didn't want to be made fun of.
I didn't want to be a Philip.
Different.
I wanted to be a James. But my parents said that there was a gangster named Jimmy Valentine that,
That sounds about right.
So I couldn't be named Jimmy. I didn't want to call me James.
You got in trouble with Phil Valentine
Obviously,
recently,
yeah, I know.
A talk show host who died of COVID. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was kind of anti-vax, so I got all this hate.
Oh, no.
Responses on my social media that they were glad I was dead. I got what was coming to me and all this kind of stuff. It was really kind of strange.
Yeah.
Strange and terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hating on someone that's died. I mean, that's a little low, I think. Anyway.
What was it like living with your mom?
You haven't thought about a lot of this stuff, have you, recently?
No, I haven't, I guess. It was tough.
Yeah.
I remember one of my first memories, like living with my mother, is like I don't know what I did. I don't even know if I did anything wrong, but I remember her like pushing me down, and I hit my back on like the door, and she called me stupid. And so the insidious thing about that is, I was like, let's say 9 at the time. I was stupid then, and I'm still struggling with those feelings now, like almost 3 decades later.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unusual because I think you're one of the brightest, most intelligent people I've met. That's the way you conduct yourselves and you think and the way you talk. So, I mean, isn't it? And you still fight those feelings today?
Every single day, every single hour.
The power of words, right?
Yeah, I don't think people really realize, especially parents. I don't think they realize how powerful words can be. But yeah, that's been one of the biggest struggles in my life. Is I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not enough. So I think one of the things that I tried to do was at some point I tried to prove that I was smart enough, that I was good enough. And, I became, in terms of school, I became a straight A student in high school, not like middle school doesn't count. But I became a straight A student, and I was like, I'm going to get out of here. Like, I'm going to get out of my mother's house. I'm not going to, this is not going to be my life. Her life is not going to be my life. Like, she dropped out of high school when she had me, and like all of that stuff. I'm like, no, that's not going to be me. I'm going to get away. So I became a straight A student, and for some reason, when I was I think I was watching like an episode of The Real World on MTV, and I saw like one of the guys, he went to Cornell, and I was like, and I don't even know if I looked up Cornell, but I was like, I'm gonna go to that school. I'm gonna go to Cornell, and so I got it into my head that like I was gonna go to Cornell.
Yeah, and
I went to Cornell.
There you. Oh, wow.
That's incredible.
What was high school like for you?
High school was interesting because I felt like I peaked in middle school, if that is a possibility.
In what sense?
Done like that one.
In what sense did you peak in middle school? What do you mean?
Like, I felt like I was, pretty popular in middle school. I was the class president. Like,
wow.
I wasn't a great student, but I felt like, I had a good run in middle school. And then I went to high school where there were several middle schools that fed into that high school. Yeah. And I couldn't find a place for me. Yeah, I feel like a lot of my life has been spent trying to find my place.
Was that a big high school?
2,000 students.
Yeah.
I had a class
like Manchester, right?
Yeah. We had a class of, when I graduated, class of about 500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about your grandmother being your person and still being your person today. Did you find your person? Like, are there any teachers or people in your life that you really had to turn to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, there were like some teachers that took, and especially in high school, and because I kind of was like a lonely high schooler eating lunch by myself, or I would like eat lunch in like a teacher's office.
You went from like class president to eating lunch by yourself.
I don't know how.
Really?
I don't know how or why
and your grades are still doing really well.
What?
You're really into school.
Well, now my grades are doing when I was in middle school, not so much. I think I was more concerned with like being popular.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if it was like I realized that I wasn't going to be the popular kid, so at least I can be the smart kid. So I just decided to like put everything that I could into being the smart kid with not a lot of friends. So so to Sandy's questions, there were some teachers that took an interest in me. I remember just kind of bumping heads with my biology teacher, and all of a sudden we became like friends. Like I still talk to her today, like which is amazing. I remember she bought me a calculator, one of those like
we just
those Texas
I don't know what it's
Yeah.
called, but we just had to ship one off to our son.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
She bought me one of those for college. She gave me like a savings bond as like a graduation present. Wow. She drove me to like her house, and I hung out with her like outside of school hours, which is I guess it's kind of strange thinking about it now. But she really kind of saw like something in me, and not a lot of people like took the time to like see something in me, because at this time, I'm living in Newport News, Virginia at this time, and my mother like really couldn't care less what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Like I could have been failing or whatever. She didn't really care. So, and my father had his family in Norfolk, Virginia.
Did you ever see your dad?
Yeah, I would see him.
Because those two places aren't that far from each
They're
other.
not far. No, they're both in like the Hampton Roads area. Like I said, it was just very like weird that both of them ended up moving down to Virginia around the same time. But yeah, I would see him, and I would see my sister, and but by this time I had like a resentment built up against my sister, and it has nothing. Now I know it had nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
It had to do with him, but more so me. I just felt like he was paying more attention to her than to me. And that, that kind of put some like stress on me and my sister's relationship.
Yeah, I bet.
Still.
I didn't hear any mention so far of any alcohol or drugs or anything.
Drugs and alcohol. So at that time in middle school and high school, the only drugs and alcohol that played a part in my life was to fit in. Like, right. That's why I drank. That's why I smoked weed. That like it was to fit in. I wanted to just, like I said, like most of my life was spent like trying to just be noticed, be recognized, find a group, find a tribe. And that was tough. So I saw people that were drinking and smoking. So I said, I'll do that too, just so that I can like be a part of the crowd. I think my drinking took off in college, and it was still more of the same. Me trying to fit in, wanting to be one of the boys, taking shot for shot with people, or chugging a beer quicker than the next person. I just wanted to be noticed. Still wanted to be noticed. But what I didn't realize is that the consequences, or like the physical like ramifications, were different for me than for other people. And that was something that I just kind of failed to recognize for a while. It was just kind of like, okay, well, maybe if I just don't do the extra shot, or maybe if I moderate, maybe if I do this. So during my drinking career, a lot of my drinking career was me trying to figure out how to drink safely.
Hey, that sounds like it could be a college curriculum.
How to drink safely?
He's poking at me because some of the education we do at UConn is to recommend practices for less damage to be caused by your drinking. So drinking a glass of water in between drinks, having something to eat, pacing yourself, which didn't work for me.
Yeah, I think I tried all of those things, but then once I had the first drink, it all went out the window.
All bets are off.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to high school again.
High school.
No,
I don't want to go back to high school.
I know, but I just want to hear a little bit about, I get this picture of you being an excellent student. Once in a while, you seem to party with friends. Were you on any sports teams or clubs or anything extracurricular, or what'd you do for fun?
Yeah, not watch TV. I didn't really do a lot of stuff for fun. I was in drama. I was in the drama club because I was not an athlete at all. I wanted to be, but wanting it doesn't make it so. So drama ended up being my thing, and that wasn't even my thing. I just had to fit in somewhere.
So looking back, what do you think your thing was or is?
We could do it over.
Do you have a thing now?
Looking back, I wish I would have just stuck with something. Like, I was the type of person that if and this was true for much of my adulthood too, if I tried something and I wasn't like immediately like great at it, I would just like abandon it.
Me too. For sure. Yeah.
Because I want it to be good enough. Like, I want it to be good enough. I want it to be smart enough. I wanted you to see that. And so if I tried something and I wasn't great, it was like, never mind.
Yeah.
And then if I tried something and I was good at it, I remember the flag twirlers.
Yeah.
I tried out for that, and I made it. And then I quit right after.
Because you didn't like it, or
I don't know.
I
don't even know why.
Yeah.
I just remember
I'm not a flag twirler.
Making the team, like actually being good enough for something for once, and then just like, oh, never mind.
Wow. So we're in college, and
well, wait 1 second. So is Cornell in upstate New York?
Yeah, it's in Ithaca, New York.
So that was quite a change. I mean, it must have taken an incredible amount of courage to go there on your own.
No, I actually wanted to go very far away. When it came down to colleges, I applied to several colleges still, even though I was like, I want to go to Cornell. And then it came between going to Cornell or UVA. And I was like, I want to be as far away from my mother as possible. So Cornell seemed like that was a thing. Ithaca, New York seemed like it was far enough away.
It's far. All our kids have gone far away. Do you think they want to get away from me, right?
Let's
no comment. No comment.
It hurts too much.
Pleading the fifth.
So what was life like at Cornell? What did you study? Start out studying?
Oh.
No. Here we go.
So the thing about it is, I think I pretended to be a good student in high school. It was a facade.
But you were, because you got the grades.
I got the grades, but I was the type of person, still kind of am. I like to figure out the way to do the least amount of work possible.
That's efficiency.
Yeah, I guess laziness kind of breeds efficiency and innovation and such. So I did that in high school. I BS'd a lot, and then I wanted to study psychology because I was like, I'm so interested in the human brain. I wanted to study psychology, and then I went to Cornell and I took some psychology classes, and I realized like, oh, you can't just BS your way out of this. So I became a social major.
Okay.
Because I felt like I could just BS my way around sociology. And And I could.
And you did.
And I did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good, because I'm getting my master's in social work. I'll have you write some of my papers.
No.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
She wants to do the least amount of work.
The least amount of work
So do I.
possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know.
Yeah. I think one of the issues is I wanted so much to get away from home, but I didn't really understand what I wanted to do with my life and like what that would look like. Like my goal was to get away, and I achieved that goal, but I didn't think about like what that would look like.
Do you know why you wanted to get away so badly?
Me and my mother just were always at odds.
Mm-hmm.
Always arguing. It wasn't like the best of relationships. Cursing, hitting. I just wanted to get out of that environment.
Wow. What's your relationship with your mom like today?
We're fine today, but I also live in Connecticut and she lives in South Carolina.
Oh.
And I see her like maybe once a year during Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen her since
Before
COVID. So I do miss her. And she has 2 other children now that are, one of them is exactly 20 years younger than I am, and the other one is 24 years younger than I am.
Wow. So after you went to college.
Mm-hmm. After I went to college, she ended up having more children.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did she remarry? Do you have stepdads or?
That's another story for another day.
Right.
She was
totally fine.
She's technically still married to the same guy that she married when I was 5.
Okay. But this isn't the dad.
No.
Okay. All right, we don't have to go all there. So somewhere along here, your addiction must have progressed.
Yeah. So along the way, college, then I became a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently teachers like to drink a lot. It's like a pastime. I'm still drinking, not to the point where I am concerned so much, but to the point where, like, I was just blacking out every once in a while. So, like, the physical manifestations of drinking kind of became apparent still. And
you were teaching in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
Were you living with your grandmother?
No. My grandmother lives in South Carolina now. I was living. I lived with my aunt for a little bit, who still lived in Brooklyn at the time, and then I moved out on my own, and I moved out to the Bronx, and then I moved to Queens, and then I moved to Harlem.
Mm-hmm. You moved a lot.
I moved a lot.
How did you like teaching?
I really liked the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I really miss them. Well, they're like in their 20s now, but I really liked the kids. I didn't like the bureaucracy around teaching. I didn't like the fact that I felt like we were teaching to a test rather than.
How many teachers have we heard say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And actually, my old biology teacher, the one that kind of took me under her wing, she said the same thing years ago.
Yeah.
Years and years ago, and she got out of teaching as she was because of the same thing.
So did two of my guys that taught for my friends taught more than 30 years in the school system, and that's what ultimately drove them out too, was having to teach for the test. Everything shifted.
Yeah.
Teach to the test.
But I don't know if, I don't think teaching in that respect was my calling.
Mm-hmm.
So I, still trying to find myself.
Okay.
Today as we speak.
Okay. So it wasn't the drinking, you were blacking out once in a while.
Yeah, blacking out once in a while, and,
we make it seem like that's normal. But I guess it is for alcoholics, That doesn't sound so bad. Only blacking out once in a while, and once in a while it could be, just only 2 or 3 times a week.
Well, I mean, at that point, I still thought it was a moderation problem.
Yeah,
right.
I
still thought I could do something about it. Like, maybe if I just don't drink martinis. Maybe I.
That was my cost-effective drinking because I hated the taste so much. I could slow myself down a little bit, and make the money spread out over a longer period of time. Did you like them?
At some point, it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought I was a wine snob, right? At some point, and then the more I drank, it didn't matter what I was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So right around the time I was teaching, I met my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we connected on was drinking. It was like our love of our shared love.
How'd you meet him?
Of drinking. We actually met on eHarmony.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
This was like before like dating apps, and I was talking to my husband about this the other day that I don't think we even had smartphones when we met.
Mm-hmm.
So we met on eHarmony, good old fashioned online computer
website.
Yes, exactly.
eHarmony.com.
Yeah, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So I was living in Harlem at the time, and he was living in Milford, and we met up at the middle ground, which I realized was not the middle point. I took a train to meet him in Norwalk, and we went out on a date, and the rest is history. But in terms of drinking, I think that we kind of enabled each other to drink more and more and more. But where my drinking really started to go off the rails is when my father got sick. So my father, who was living in Norfolk, Virginia at the time, he had been telling me that he had a mass on each of his kidneys, and every time I would speak to him pretty much every day. Like when I was like going to and from work, I would call him, and I'm like, "Did you check it out? Did you get it checked out? Did you get it checked out? Do you have an appointment with the doctor? What's going on here?" And nothing, crickets. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to wait until I'm on the night." He was a police officer at Norfolk State. So he's like, "I'm going to wait until I'm on the night shift in order to get it checked out." I'm like, okay, whatever. Finally, when he went to go do something about it, he went in for a surgery to just get it checked out. And he almost died on the table. And then from that point on, his health just declined. And I would go and see him. Me and my husband would take some time off, go down and visit my father. And I just didn't know what to do. And I think a part of it was I didn't know what to do, but also like I still had those feelings around like, man, our relationship could be better. And I still had some resentment against him for, not being around a lot when I was growing up. But here he is sick. And what am I going to do? So I just drank. That was my answer. Like my father was in the hospital and I go to a bar and drink instead of being with my father. I just drank more and more and more to kind of like dull the pain. And then my father passed away.
Oh.
And
what year was this? How long ago?
You would think that I would remember the
just
year.
How long ago?
It was like
not necessarily.
I want to say it was like 2015 or 2016.
Yeah. So fairly recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it still hurts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's still like unresolved stuff there that I'm working through or trying to work through. But I remember being at after my father's funeral, we were all gathered at my sister's house, and one of her friends, who I didn't even know very well, said something about my drinking.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, if your father just passed away, you'd be drinking like this too. So that was my excuse. And then it just kind of deteriorated from there. I had a job, a full-time job, and I was like, you know what? Life is too short to do something that you don't want to do.
What didn't you want to do at this time? What was that job?
I was working at Post University as a academic success counselor.
Oh, wow.
So basically an advisor for their online students. Though they had a really robust online program.
Right.
So an advisor for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't bad. It's just I was like I can do more. I can do something else. This is where I was like, maybe I could just drink for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So I quit that. My husband was okay with it. I don't know. What was he going to do at that point? I quit that, and then I got a job as a food tour guide in New Haven. And I remember on my first day of training for being a food tour guide, my boss had to call my husband to pick me up from a bar in New Haven.
Wow.
Because and I still don't know how he got my husband's phone number. So I don't know. I was like,
your emergency contact.
I just came out of the bathroom and my husband was there, and I was like, what are you doing here?
Wow. What's your husband do for work and all that? Is he a job quitter too, or
no?
He's at the same job.
No, he's been at the same job since I've known him. His company has gotten acquired several times by other larger companies.
What's the field?
He's a computer programmer.
Oh,
so he programs for healthcare stuff.
Oh yeah.
So if you ever open enrollment or anything like that, he's that guy that helps. Do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
He likes it.
Yeah. Good job. So the first day on this job as a food tour guide, your boss calls for a ride home for you.
Yep.
And that was okay with your boss?
Yep. Still had the job.
Wow.
I told you I wanted a job where I could drink and it would be okay, and I found it.
Yeah. And how long did this last?
It lasted for, I want to say, 1 or 2 years.
Mm-hmm. What does a food tour guide do, actually?
I love food tours. If you've never been on a food tour, I have
never been on a food tour.
Oh, I love food tours because it gives you a little bit of historical context of the area that you're visiting.
Mm-hmm.
So you get history and you get food, and on this particular food tour, also drinks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the drinking came in for me. But yeah, it's a history of the area, and it's a history of the food that you're eating as well.
In New Haven?
Then this one is in New Haven.
So is that modern pizza? Is that part of the food tour?
Yes, actually one of them. One of the food tours that I led, we went to Modern Abitz.
And how many restaurants do you go to on a food tour?
You go about 5 or 6.
And you eat at every one?
A little.
This is right up your alley.
Yeah. Have you heard of food tours before?
No.
What?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No.
I went on my first food tour in Hawaii. Me and my husband got married in Oahu.
Yeah.
And we went on a food tour and we fell in love, and we were like, anywhere we go, we're gonna go on a food tour. So I've been on food tours.
So what's it cost to do a New Haven food tour? Do you remember? I mean,
at the time, I think the ticket price was it was reasonable for what you were getting, $60.
And that included drinks? Or,
yes.
No, well, that's always reasonable. Not that I want the drink part anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the most I ever spent I think I spent $59 once in Minnesota on a beef rib or something like that. It was
that
amazing.
Is not true.
It is.
You've spent more in Ruth.
I know, but that was on several things, not on one.
One
item.
item.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was like a Fred Flintstone dinosaur rib. You know, it was so
Was
incredible.
it worth it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as it was worth it.
Yeah. All right. So you did the food tours.
Yes, did the food tours, and at the time, my boss's business was expanding. He owns party bikes in New Haven as well.
A what?
Party bikes.
What's a party bike?
So you pedal around on this like carriage contraption, and you drink. So
You haven't seen this?
No.
They face the table, right? In the middle.
Yeah, you're facing like
but
a
the thing
a bar.
goes this way.
It
So you're
does?
facing this way.
Are you
talking to
pedaling or
people.
is somebody pedaling
You're
you?
pedaling.
You're pedaling, but there's a person there's a person that's steering.
Okay.
You're burning off the alcohol while you're drinking.
Have you done that?
No, but I watch TV.
So yeah, that was kind of like all the rage in New Haven for a bit, and so I worked for that company as well, but at this
Did you steer?
no, I can barely drive, so no.
You can barely drive.
I can barely drive.
Okay.
I hit a lot of parked cars in my lifetime. So when they expanded, so my boss, he went in on this business with someone else, and I remember having this conversation with the co-owner. We were like going to a brewery for some reason. I don't even remember.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were like partnering with them. So we were going to a brewery, and I remember having a conversation with him saying, I may have a problem with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to the brewery, and then I drank.
And he saw that you had a problem.
No. It's just I thought it was kind of ironic that I'm saying I may have a problem with alcohol, but I'm gonna still drink.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I'm still trying to find myself, right? So I took this personal development class that was set in New York City, and there were about 50 participants in the class, and then we were all sitting around in a circle, lights turned off, eyes closed, and the assignment was to tell a secret about yourself out loud. So people were just like yelling out their deepest, darkest secrets, and for whatever reason, I yelled out, "I'm an alcoholic." And I was like, where is that coming from? Who said that? Like, it sounds like my voice, but that,
Wow.
like, why would I say that?
Right.
Why would I say that out loud? And because I have a distinctive voice, and I guess everyone else in the room did too, once the session was over, people came over to me and they said, do you need help? Like, we can try to set you up with an AA meeting in your town. Please let me know how we can support you. Mm-hmm. And after that, I went to my first 12-step meeting, and
Because they helped you find one?
because I said it, because it became real. I said it out loud, and people knew about it.
And you believed
And
it.
I had accountability.
Yeah, wow.
People were following up with me about it, and I came back home, and I walked into a 12-step meeting, a noon 12-step meeting on a Monday.
Wow.
How long ago?
That was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And did you stop drinking?
I stopped drinking.
And what did your husband say?
So it's funny because before, I would get belligerent when I was drinking. Like, I thought I was like being fun and stuff, but I wasn't. I would get really mean, and especially to my husband, because he was the one that was around the most. And I would pick fights with him, threaten to divorce him, like just all kinds of things. I just did really mean things. Which, if someone told me that, like, let's say, like, if the tables were turned, like, and someone told me that their husband had did the things that I did to my husband, like, to them, I would say you should call the cops. So what did he say when I went in? He's like, I don't think you're an alcoholic. But that's there's more to the story for that one. But he's like, I don't think you're an alcoholic. But then the more that I kept going and the more that I did not drink, he definitely saw an improvement.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, you don't think I'm an alcoholic? I'll go drink. No, don't start drinking again. I don't think you're an alcoholic, but don't start drinking again.
Please don't do that. Wow.
Wow.
So what was your journey like in recovery?
So I went into the rooms of a 12-step program. I still was confused as to why I was there. And I kept telling one of my friends, by my birthday next year, I'll probably be drinking again. Because I thought that, like, the 12-step program taught you how to drink safely. I didn't realize that abstinence was a thing or was the thing for that particular program. So I'm like, I'll just learn how to drink, and then I'll go back and start drinking again. And I just kept going, and I was like, oh, wait, no, that's not how this works. And then I got a sponsor after some coercion, and started working with her on the 12 steps. And that was in so I went into the rooms in August of 2017. And I remember around November or December of 2017 just feeling like, man, life is good. Just like a few months later, it's only been a few months, right? Like, but life is good. Like, things are really doing. Like, I have fellowship now. I hadn't had that in a long time. I'm working on myself. Things are great, and I felt like I was connecting more with my body, my mind, my emotions. I was just making that connection. So when I found a lump in my breast in December, I was like, what's this about? And it was just like a connection with my body. And it just so happened that I was speaking to a woman who had undergone breast cancer treatment. At the same time, it just so happened, it was like a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. I know now it wasn't a coincidence. But I was speaking to her at the same time, and she's like, oh, yeah, you want to go get that checked out? Just go to your gynecologist. And so I did. I got it checked out. And I went to get a mammogram. Nothing showed up on the mammogram. I got an ultrasound because I have dense breast tissue, whatever that means. So I got an ultrasound, and it showed up in the ultrasound, and the radiologist said, oh, it's just fibroadenoma. Come back in 6 months, and we can check it out to see if anything changes. And because I had been coincidentally talking to the woman that just underwent breast cancer treatment, I followed back up with her, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right for them to just say, come back in 6 months. So I asked for a second opinion, and I got a biopsy in late December 2017. On January 6th, 2018, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Thank God for your new friend.
Thank God for God. Because everything that seemed like a coincidence just really wasn't, right? Like me saying that I was an alcoholic just 4 months previous, and then all of a sudden, and then speaking with someone that had undergone breast cancer treatment, all of those things, like I say, it was my higher power, like in action.
Well, you can't stop there.
Oh, what?
You got
what?
you got diagnosed.
I got
What
diagnosed.
happened?
I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was 33 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, in terms of like things that should not happen, that should not have happened to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't go into the whole woe is me territory. The first thing that I did was, I think the first person that I called was my sponsor. Not even my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I called her and I said, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. I was probably crying. And she's like, okay, meet me at a meeting tonight. And I went to that meeting, and it just so happened, coincidentally, it just so happened that a woman that she wanted me to speak to, who hadn't been at that meeting for a while, who was also a breast cancer survivor, showed up there, and she put me in contact with her, and we ended up becoming fast friends and just talking about our situations. But my sponsor also asked me, like, what do you want to do? Like what do you want to do for next steps? And I said, I want to continue working the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was on step 3, coincidentally.
Mm-hmm.
During that time.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, well, this is a test of turning my will and my life over.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I just wanted to keep working the steps, and I did, right? Between I got my I underwent like a process to get my eggs freezed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any children, and the process was pretty unsuccessful. I did it twice, thinking that maybe the second time would be better. They actually created like the embryos, and I got 2 from 2 times. Mm-hmm. I have 2. So I'm paying $600 a year to keep those 2 embryos frozen. So that was tough, right? So it was kind of tough, like seeing like, all right, well, I might not have kids. Not even sure if I want kids, but the fact that it might be off the table is kind of like shocking to my system. And then right after that process was over, I started undergoing chemo. I have an awesome oncologist, Dr. Fishbach. And I lost my hair. I lost like a lot of my like will during chemo. It just did not react well with my system. But when I felt better, I was doing service, like anything that I could do, being of service in any way that I could. That's what I was called to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still called to being of service.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided once it came time to undergo radiation, that was a part of my plan. Mm-hmm. That didn't feel right to me, so I ended up opting for a bilateral mastectomy. Mm-hmm. So I got a bilateral mastectomy, that feels like a really short way to talk about my cancer journey, but that was that.
Yeah. And how are you today?
I'm good. I'm on maintenance drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Some days are hard, right? Like anytime I have any kind of like ache or pain, I'm like, is it the cancer? Mm-hmm. And like I said, I have a really fantastic oncologist who will kind of like humor me. So I've had a lot of just scans and MRIs needlessly. Mm-hmm. Probably, I hope the insurance companies aren't watching this. But I've had,
Peace of mind.
Yeah, he's like, I had like a headache, and he's like, what takes away a headache? An MRI, like a clean MRI. Yeah. And so sometimes I get like really caught up in like, what if it comes back? What if it comes back? Because the unfortunate thing is, the woman that I met at the meeting, who was also a breast cancer survivor, She was for 20 years, and hers came back and metastasized, and it's just, I just think about that a lot, and I don't want my life minutes to be spent like thinking about like what if, but it's really hard. It can be difficult.
I have this similar story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, 11 years now, 2010, when I was at the end of my cancer treatment, I was on the beach fishing with a couple buddies, and I was not doing well. It was, and I kind of broke down that I didn't think I could ever go through the treatment again, that it would be impossible. But over the years, over 11 years of being away from the treatment and still having complications because of the treatment I received, like radiation in my jaw and bone dying and all that. If the cancer comes back, it comes back. It's not my decision anyway. There's not a lot I can do about it. So I don't think I ever really worry about it. And if it did come back, we'd make the decision of what to do then. But enjoy today. Can't let the worry and the fear destroy today. I don't want to do that.
I agree with you. It goes back to kind of what you were saying about like the meaning of life too.
Yeah.
Like what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
And if I spend too much time worrying about something that isn't even here, hasn't happened, may not happen, I am taking away from my minutes today.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. It's a powerful story, Maysha. It's going to help a lot
like
of people.
Today? What's it like for you? Did you find your pack?
Well, I want to also know how. Well, you can. I want to know how she found CCAR too through all this.
Oh, geez.
So we have life today and how you found CCAR, whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah, I think so. Life is good today. I'm starting to trust myself again. The interesting thing is like having people trust me. Like being an employee of CCAR and like having like my bosses trust me when I don't 100% trust myself is a scary thing. Like I get to make a decision. I get to make like a pretty big decision. What? Why? Why? My marriage is good. We celebrated 10 years in August.
Wow.
Nice.
I have a lot of milestones in August. My birthday's in August. We got married in August. I got sober in August.
What day in August?
For which ones?
No, your birthday.
Oh, my birthday's August 2nd. Except my birth certificate says that my birthday is August 7th. So I'm a Leo, so I celebrate both days.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm a Leo, so I celebrate the whole month.
I gotcha.
And then my anniversary, August 18th. My sobriety date, August 23rd.
August 18th is a big day.
Our son's birthday.
Oh, your son's a Leo too. So yeah, life is good. I'm still trying to figure out how to live life. I've spent so much of my life like just trying to fit in here or fit in there, without really figuring out like, well, what does Maysha want? Like what does Maysha perceive as fun? What what are my goals? Not society's goals, but what are my goals? And I'm still navigating that. And in the meantime though, I feel like being of service, right? Like if I'm going to turn my will and my life over, I think being of service has been like really helpful for me. So I have some service positions within my 12-step community. I sponsor people. I service sponsor people. I keep busy with that basically.
Yeah.
And how did I find CCAR? So I didn't know anything about recovery coaching until I got into recovery myself. And then all of a sudden, I'm hearing about recovery coaching, I'm hearing about CCAR, I'm hearing about the trainings. And CCAR had been just kind of like in the background for a long time. Like I would hear about it, and I would hear people in the rooms talk about taking a training and enjoying it. And then I was speaking to my therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking to my therapist, and we were talking, and she's like, "Well, why don't you just get a job at CCAR?" And I was like, "Well, first they have to be hiring, like, and you guys were not hiring at the time. Like, there was no jobs available."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "I love." My therapist says, "I love CCAR," and she knew Michael Askew, and she couldn't say enough about it. And then one day, a few weeks later, she sent me a text message with a job opening for CCAR, and I was like, okay, this seems kind of like kismet. Like,
yeah,
I think I'll go through with it, and I did. And the funny thing about it is, I thought I blew my phone screen. Like, I picked up. Jackie was like, "Are you able to talk right now?" And I should have said no. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't have, like, because I'm here now.
Right.
But I wasn't ready. I was nervous, and I told my husband after I got off the phone, I was like, "Well, I don't think I'm getting that job." And then, like, a couple of days later, I got, like, a call for a first round interview, and the rest is history.
Why don't you think you were going to get it? Because you were so nervous?
Like, I felt like I couldn't speak coherently about things. Yeah.
And you went through the process of getting all the training and the recovery coach professional, and you had a really tough interview to get your RCP designation. What was the training like for you? Did it surprise you in any way?
Yes and no. Like, I really enjoyed going through the training, and I plan on going through more. I'm saying once our department grows a little bit, I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to take even more trainings. I think that how engaging the training was surprised me. Like, I've been in trainings where you just kind of sit there, and especially since I took it on Zoom, I'm like, how is this going to be engaging? I can probably just shut my camera off, and like no one will know that, like. Right. But no, like, there was no room for that. Like, very engaging, and it was crazy how, like, the group that I was with, like, we felt like we were like family by the end of the training. Someone from my training still calls me today. Yeah. But being a person in recovery, a lot of it made sense. Like, it explained a lot. Like, I love, like, looking through the stages of recovery, because I'm like, oh yeah, that resonates with me. That resonates with me. Yeah.
But you're a natural recovery coach, too.
No, I don't think so.
Listen, so I was the one that did her RCP interview, and you're a natural recovery coach, because I tried to throw you off all your customer service and all your reading of people all these years really serve you well. You're in the right field to help other people become coaches and to help trainers and all that, because you're natural. And see, when you're a natural at something, you often don't even recognize that until somebody tells you, because you just do it naturally. That's just who you are. So you've always had this ability to read people, be intuitive, and you ask really good questions, don't you think?
Well, now that you say that, I'm inquisitive by nature, and some of my, like, friends and former colleagues are like, "Oh, Maysha's going to ask these questions. She's going to ask all of these questions." But it's funny, because the way that I frame it, they're typically, like, not alarming or disarming. I can get someone to, like, tell me their life story within, like, 5 minutes of meeting them, just by asking a couple of questions.
Right. That's the teacher in you, too, and you have to deal with all those little kids. They do that to you a lot of times because they ask such incredible questions, and they're so open. I love working with kids, too. Help our craft a lot. So you had all that background, not even knowing what you were being prepared for.
Yeah.
So what do you think about fun? What have you found to be fun in recovery and recently as you're looking to discover yourself? Any ideas, any thoughts?
I'm still working on it. I'm doing so. I feel like when I was active in drinking, I didn't do anything. Like, I would just drink, right? I would just, I would go to another country and just like hang out in a bar.
And drink in the country.
In the country.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I go to Paris and like, did I go to the Eiffel Tower? No, I went to a bar. Mm-hmm. Like, an Irish bar, like, of all things too.
In
like
Paris.
not even.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I think like now it's just, for me, it's a matter of just trying different things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And experiencing different things that I've just never experienced before because I was too caught up. And
so what's something you've tried recently?
Oh, I haven't really tried a lot recently. I went mini golfing with my husband the other day.
Yeah?
I thought that was fun.
There you go.
It seems kind of lame, but
Uh-oh.
No?
No, it's not lame. It's always good.
It seems kind of lame, but it's fun. I don't know. I guess I have to get back to you on what have I tried recently. That's fun.
Where would you like to visit?
I would like to visit Ghana.
Really?
Yeah. So before COVID started, my husband went to Tanzania on safari.
We saw Tanzania.
Yeah.
We were on the other side of the river on safari.
Oh,
in Kenya. My daughter's our daughter's in Kenya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I would say that would be a worthwhile adventure, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was like one of my first sober adventures. Mm-hmm. Like, I hadn't been anywhere.
To Ghana?
No, to Tanzania.
Oh, to Tanzania.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Tanzania was my first sober adventure because I didn't think that I could travel without drinking. Because I also don't like flying, but I like going to places.
All right.
So I would like pop an Ativan and then like
drink. So you could get through the flight.
So I can get through the flight and hope I, didn't die because of it.
So I missed that. So you guys went to Tanzania together?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then the funny thing about it is it was a small, well, you've been on safari, so it was like a small group of us. It was just 8 of us the whole time together. We would have dinner together, breakfast together, lunch together. And most people were drinking, but this one guy noticed that I hadn't been, that I wasn't drinking. And he pulled me aside and he's like, "Are you from the Bill?" And I was like, "How did you know?" How did you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that he hadn't been drinking either, but he noticed that about me. Mm-hmm. And it was just nice to kind of have someone there that could kind of relate to me.
Does your husband still drink?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's okay. With you? Is that a tough question?
Is it okay with me?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. It's not tough for me to have to know that there's alcohol in the house because I'm not tempted. I don't have those temptations any longer. It's tough for me to see what alcohol does to him.
Right. Well, I think after a period of sobriety, we could be sitting anywhere, like in a restaurant having dinner and then watching the effects it has on everyone that drinks.
Oh, yeah.
It's difficult to see sometimes because it's not usually positive. It doesn't always look, and rarely to me does it look enjoyable anymore because people get stupid. They don't get who they are. That's just not who they are, but that's just me.
Well, and that's my thing. It's just that I love authentic people.
Mm-hmm.
And, some would say, "Oh, I'm more authentic when I've been drinking," because, but I feel like people lose their authenticity and what they say just can't be trusted.
Because you were talking about, Maysha, about thinking you might be funny or provocative when you're really belligerent and mean, and it's your discernment of how you're coming across is completely altered when you're under the effects of alcohol. It's really difficult. but have you done any food tours? Because I saw you light up a little bit when you were even talking about food tours.
By the way, we didn't enjoy the food on safari.
I didn't either.
Oh.
Yeah. It was terrible. Yeah, no. I just, maybe they can't get in as much fresh food as possible.
I think the cows aren't fat enough.
Cows aren't fat enough.
Yeah, the grass-fed beef, it's like, ooh. But anyway.
Yeah, it was not a culinary experience at all. But I got what I wanted. I got to see the Big Five, and I got to just see animals in their
we didn't get to see
their habitat.
We didn't get to see the rhino or the leopard.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They tried really hard, but
Well,
our tour guide showed us, we were in the Ngorongoro crater. I don't know if I pronounced that right. And he's like, look over there. A gazelle just gave birth to a baby.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did you see that?
Right.
yeah, ours was like that too.
Okay.
He really tried hard to get them
Simon was like, I see a lion on that rock. It was like a mile away, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it was incredible."
They're good.
We're still Facebook friends with our guide.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh,
Yeah, our daughter's gone back and
Johnson,
seen him again.
too.
Yeah, Anyway, it was an incredible experience.
So I think it's an exciting time for you. You have a lot of life up in front of you, and a lot of things to try and explore and see what. Art Woodard, I don't know if you ever got a chance to meet Art personally.
No.
Well, you've probably seen his videos and things.
Yes.
But he would say, pay attention to what has heart and meaning. And he said that so many times it didn't really have an effect on me. But recently, for some reason, it's really a powerful, powerful statement to me of pay attention to what has heart and meaning. And that's how you can find your passion. That's how you can find what drives you. So I got to thank you, Maysha.
Thank you for inviting me.
I got to know you a lot better. I'm super appreciative.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I feel like this is a growth opportunity for myself.
And Maysha really does a lot with our training department. Probably get her on the phone, so call up and say hi. She's phenomenal at what she does and has really helped us elevate training to a new level. So thank you for all your work so far. It's been amazing.
Thanks for believing in me.
Thank you, Maysha.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, everybody.